Welcome back to another episode of the MX Endurance Podcast, where we look at everything that's been happening in the world of endurance sports. My name is Tim Ford, and I am joined by my good friend, the penultimate legend, the sexy shepherdess, or should we say cowboy this week, the sexiest voice in triathlon, James Bale. Jimbo, where are we finding you on this fine podcast day this time?
Where am I this time? Where's James Bale in the world? Well, I'm in Austin, Texas at the moment, and it's 1:41 in the morning. So I've got up to do the podcast at the normal time, mate. And enthusiasm levels are boundless this morning. How are you?
I'm good. Let's a bit of a peek behind the screen. There was a day last week where I was messaging you. I was just like radio silence. I was like, "Fuck, has he got the shits for me or something?" I'm like, "This is not normal. I don't normally go hours without hearing from James Bale." And then eventually you message me. I'm like, "The fuck?" And you go, "Yeah, I'm in America." I'm like, "What the hell? What? That was unexpected." And then you're like, "Daytona." I'm like, "The race isn't for like a few weeks, mate. Like you've gone early, like champion. It's not race day yet, but." There you are. You are in the US of A, living at large, mate, as you do in America. I heard you were doing a bit of cowboy dancing the other day. In fact, I'm disappointed. Where's the cowboy hat? Have you got it there? Can we see the hat?
I was going to wear it, but then I realised it wouldn't go over the headphones.
That works. There we go. Just do the rest of the podcast like that, mate.
Yeah, I went two-stepping the other night, mate. It was good fun.
For people who aren't like myself, and I mean, I obviously know, but for people who aren't like me and aren't aware of what two-stepping is, please inform our audience.
Yeah, I've got no real idea. I did a lot of it, but I did a lot of shuffling about.
Just giving it some of these ones, hey? Just like making it up as you go. Just looking better.
It was a unique evening, and the fatigue is real.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Look, let's get right into it, James Bale. This podcast is the official podcast of MX Endurance, the world's premier endurance sports community, created by four-time world champion Chris McCormack. Jimbo, you've been part of MX bloody ages. What's something you like about it?
Well, mate, as you just said a minute ago, it's very rare we go any longer than 4 or 5 hours without chatting about stuff, and you keep me regularly updated with all your plans and exciting ideas for the next calendar year. And you've been taking me through some interesting stuff that you've got on the list for 2022. So that's what excites me at the moment, is the never-ending adaptive nature of MX Endurance.
I do. Like, I've put up a few cryptic posts in the group this week to sort of gauge interest, and I've asked a few things, and I love seeing the responses. And I'm like, oh, you're gonna love this. Like, we have got some really exciting things we're working on at the moment.
Give us some sizzle, Mr. Ford. Come on.
I don't know. We're just trying to. I think one of the things we've realized, I think lots of people probably listening to this, if you are a triathlete of some form, there's a lot of people I think have been struggling throughout the last 18 months, 2 years about like one of the big things we hear is people that just lost their motivation to train. So we've been thinking about, like, there's 10,000 platforms about how to get trained. I mean, we're one of them. Here's a training plan. Do the training plan. But there's nothing really that encourages consistency or encourages the want to develop those good habits. And I think that's something that we've always really tried to work out a way of doing it. And I think we've come up with a very, very fun way of doing it. So we're excited to get working on this thing. I know Pavel, every time Pavel's out ITGO, every time we have one of these meetings, I'm like, you're going to have to settle me down, Pavel, because I've got about 50 ideas. So, and he's just like, okay, we can do this. We can't do this. We could maybe do this. I'm like, okay, that's good. As long as we get the main thing. So it's very, very exciting. Keep your eyes peeled. Or as we'll say later in the episode, head to mxendurance.com/podcast where you can join up, and then you'll be the first to know about these changes. But I think it's going to be very, very good. Something that nobody in triathlon is really doing at the moment. It's not AI. It's none of that sort of stuff. It's something that I think is going to just be like, I think people are going to get, why didn't we do this before? So we'll see what happens. It's exciting. It's not an app where people ask questions. I can confirm that. That is not what it is. But it is something. So we'll see. But Jimbo, I'll tell you what, mate. We had a guest planned for this week's episode, and there is nothing like finding out that said guest is not coming on the podcast with relatively short notices, in not telling us they're not coming on, and then trying to find about 30 minutes of extra content to fill an episode like we've done this week. So we may be scraping the bottom of the barrel for some of these articles. I don't think so. I think I did pretty well, actually, populating the episode this week. Some of the articles are a little bit left of field, but I think we're going to get on with it. We're going to power through, James Bale. You're going to bring the energy. I'm going to bring the information. Everything is going to work out just fine. The first article is particularly for your interest because I know how much you love this sort of shit. And that is the fact that an Estonian triathlete breaks 41 consecutive full distance triathlon record by almost 83 hours. I've Got this article from Kevin McKinnon at Triathlon Magazine Canada. For our audio listeners, you cannot see the excitement in James Bale's eyes as I read that headline to him. For our video audience, you know what I'm talking about. You've in fact probably paused it, and so you've taken a screenshot and put it up on your wall going, this is what excitement looks like. This is James Bale, peak excitement. James Bale, Estonia's Rate Radicep, is trying to set a new record for 60 full-distance triathlons. That's 3.8 kilometre swim, 180 kilometre bike, and 42.2 kilometres run. We can't call it an Ironman. In 60 consecutive days. He's doing this impressive challenge on the Canary Island of Fuerteventura. He swims in a 50-metre pool at the Playa Tas Resort, takes on a windy and challenging bike course that features 1,800 metres of climbing, and then finishes with a marathon that includes 300 metres of elevation gain. A couple of days ago, Radicep set a new record for 41 consecutive days of full-distance triathlons, breaking the record that had been held by France's Ludovic Chorgoni by 82 hours, 39 minutes, and 54 seconds with his time of 451 hours, 1 minute, and 6 seconds. 451 hours. Why is that so funny to me? That's a ridiculous amount of time. Day 41 was a turning point for me. I was so motivated to get to the next level of the challenge and to conquer one of my main goals. Day 41 was full of records, a new world record, the fastest day in my challenge with a finish time of 10:28:07. That's very good. And the best marathon time of all 41, a 3:05:53. That's actually really good, said Radicep after his big day. The next day, he hit another milestone, getting his average for each of his full distance efforts under 11 hours. He had been on track for that before he was hit by a car. Oh my God, I shouldn't laugh at that. He was hit by a car and had to ride a borrowed bike for a week, losing valuable time each day. After day 42, though, his average time was 10 hours, 59 minutes, and 50 seconds. I should have been on schedule for less than 11 hours already on day 15, but I was hit by the car and my bike was destroyed, he said. It cost me about 10 hours of time. It took almost 4 weeks to make up for the lost time. Jesus Christ. James Bale.
451 hours. Unreal. I mean, all right. It's obviously an impressive effort.
Bloody oath it is.
I mean, ultimately, he'll be doing almost 2 months of back-to-back Ironman racing. But I don't get it, mate. You knew I wouldn't get it. All right.
What do you mean? I got this because I knew how much you love this stuff. I specifically picked it knowing that you're such a fan. The other one I was choosing was another Everestian one, but I thought, James probably has had enough of those of recent times. He'd rather a 60 long course triathlons consecutive report instead.
What's
he got hit by a car.
Yeah, well, I hope he's all right after that. And I'm pleased to hear he's now got these bike issues sorted. But I mean, he must have all the time in the world and all the money in the world to be able to go against after this endeavor.
I do love, talk about how do you know if somebody's a triathlete? If they talk about getting hit by a car by saying, "Oh, it cost me 11 hours." Like I love that. That's his concern. Is like, yeah, I got hit by a car. Yeah, it cost me 11 hours. Like that. It's such a triathlon mindset. I love this, man. I started this to sort of take the piss out of you a little bit. Fucking hell, he's run 3:05 marathons. Like, I'd love to do that on one.
I must say, I'm pleased. It's good that he's not fucking about. It's he's putting in good times, solid times. If he's under the average for 11 hours per Ironman per day, then he's doing it well. He's not going out and just really sort of dragging going through the motions, walking marathons and stuff. He's properly doing this. He's punching it out. I mean, his body must be a mess. Do we have any idea as to what his recovery is like? Or
nope.
I mean,
I could do more research, but I chose not to.
Who can afford to spend 451 hours over 41 days doing sport?
Well, we think about it. It's 60 Ironmans, and he's only at so it's actually going to be like 660 hours.
Yeah.
Of triathlons. 660. I do a 70.3 in about between 4 hours and 4.5. So anywhere between there. I've done 31. I've done 120 hours of triathlon. Let's say 250, maybe 300 hours of triathlon in my entire life. And I've done triathlon for a decade. He's about to do double what I've ever done in a decade in 2 months. Ridiculous.
But what for?
People like us on a podcast talk about it to create content for us and obviously our listeners. They loved it. You don't tell me you don't think people are listening like going, "Thank you, boys. Thank you for telling me the triathlon news. I need to know. This is why I listen to the MX Endurance podcast to be kept up to date with everything. We don't joke when we say we'll keep you up to date with everything that's happening in endurance sports, where we leave no stone unturned.
I hope he's got some social media people can go and follow and check him out. Maybe some daily blogs or something, because it'd be interesting to know where he's at, where his mind's at, how his enthusiasm levels are, and also post all this, what the implications on his body will be, because it's a big shift.
Come on, Jimbo, we should get him on the podcast. I'll let you organise an interview. You two can chat. I'll sit it out, and you guys can have a really in-depth chat. How's that sound? You can do a lot of research into this. You can be the guy who talks about all that stuff. In fact, I'm going to put you two in touch, and you can be his content producer. You can do a whole series of stuff with him. How's that sound? Does that get you excited?
Yeah, I'm gagging for that, mate. Just be an episode of me going, but what for? Why?
But why? Why? But I don't get it. Just do one, and then you're an Ironman. Get the tattoo. Move on.
Oh no! Look, the sport's got to be full of different characters and different approaches. So good on him. Good on him for getting stuff out there. I hope there's more to it.
Anyway, let's move on from that one to the next one. I'm actually a bit more interested to talk about, and that is the fact that Gustav Iden may skip Kona in 2022, and he's not all in on Ironman yet. Now, this came from Joe Duckers at Tri247, but I know that they're referencing a video on Mikael Eden's YouTube channel, because I watched that video this week. I keep saying it every week, guys. Get over to Mikael's channel. Just search Mikael Iden on YouTube. Give him a subscribe. You will not regret it. It is the best triathlon content that is being produced at the moment. We should get Mikael to go over and talk with old mate who's done his 10,000 Ironmans, because I reckon he'd make it pretty entertaining. But anyway, we're going to go to the article because they did a very good summary, and it says, for many triathletes, the spiritual lure of racing at the Ironman World Championships in Kona is the pinnacle of the sport. Gustav Iden is not one of them. Iden would be a major player were he to rock up on the Big Island after a stunning full-distance debut at Ironman Florida earlier this month. But right now, he is uncertain about whether he'll make the trip. Instead, the Norwegian may concentrate on the two huge races in St. George, Utah next year, the delayed 2021 World Championships in May and the Ironman 70.3 World Championships at the end of October. Iden has said in the countdown to Florida that he would only go all in on Ironman racing in 2022 if he enjoyed it, and the jury is at least out to an extent. It was fun racing in Florida, but I think it was mostly fun because I won and had a good race. For me, it was about the same fun I have during a Super League race. It's mind-blowing. I think I still enjoy short course racing more than long course racing, even though I'm not winning there as often. Iden then went on to outline his thinking around Kona, and particularly the difficulty posed by next year's schedule. Going to Kona would mean he would then have to bid for a third world title at 70.3 on the back of a hard season and just 3 weeks after Hawaii. I think maybe this is controversial, but I think I'm going to do both St. George races and maybe skip Kona because I'm not drawn into the legendary Kona Island king of thing. I'm drawn to racing the others, he reasoned. The reason why I don't want to do both is because I picture it's going to be hard to come back to short course racing if I have such a long campaign of full distance. But I'm not decided on this, but in my mind right now, it's St. George and St. George. James Bell, what do you think?
Yeah, I like it. I like the strategic approach he's taking to it. I mean, he came in and he smashed his first Ironman and he won it in impressive fashion. So now the expectation was that, he's an Ironman athlete now and he's just going to go and, race Kona, race St. George, etc., and just roll on to that because, yes, he's a good short course racer, but he's not got the results at short course that, Kristian Blummenfelt has got, for example. So the general assumption would be, he's just going to move to Ironman now, and then he's disproving that. But also, I think this gives a nice insight and a nice reflection, sort of a nice impression for us of what it would be like if they did rotate Kona out every few years and then and moved it around, because then you'd have specialists like Gustav Iden saying, I'm not going to race the Kona one but I'll race the St. George one, or I'll race whatever's in its place. And then you'd have the specialists who are focusing on the Kona one because it was, in their mind, had that gravitas and that emphasis to it. So, I like this, man. I like it a lot. Good bloke, isn't he?
It's almost like he knows what he's talking about, mate. It's amazing that, isn't it? There's a few things. I want to start on what you just talked about with like the fact that you're going to see this, the race rotate and what that could mean for an athlete like Gustav. And I found it interesting he's sort of talking about the fact that he's not bought into the legend, the story, the whatever. And it makes me because I understand for amateurs, for age groupers, it's a huge thing. I hear it. And I tend to wonder whether it is for the pros. Like for some, for the guys who started as an age grouper and have gone through the ranks, I can guarantee it's a big thing. But for people like these short course guys who move up to the longer course, I wonder if it is because to them they're not starting the triathlon hearing all about Kona. They probably do a little bit, but it's probably not the center of their universe. Therefore, like what he's saying, he's more interested in who he races. That's a really interesting approach to me. It's different
to
what we
he can get out of it. I mean, he's looking at the St George race and thinking, well, that one suits me a lot better than the Kona race does. And like you say, I mean, it's a triathlon essentially is a participation sport at the moment, and the gravitas that Kona comes from the qualification the age groupers have to go through to get there, and the fact that the sport was founded there, and all the stories we've heard. But if you've got a generation coming through now who are mixing short course and long course racing because they can, then their reason for being, especially now that triathlon's an Olympic sport and they've grown up with triathlon as an Olympic sport, their raison d'etre has been short course and Olympic pursuit. So they may not even be fans of the long course racing. They may not have grown up watching it. It just exists. And he's looking at it from a tactical point of view. And I think that's very important.
I think as well, talking about who you're racing and the performances, like not even just for an Eden specialist, but we know that Kona suits a certain sort of athlete. Like it's probably the longest debate that's been happening in the sport about reasons, the fors and against moving Kona. I think we have to establish at this time, Kona is always going to be an age group world championship because it means so much to the age groups. I think assuming that it's going to be anything, it's not. I have been in the camp of I don't think that's the reason people love Kona. I think Kona is Kona because of Kona, not the title. I'm ready to accept. I'm ready to accept defeat, go down with the ship, and say Kona is going to be the age group world championships forever. I'm going to go back on this one though, and I know this was one that is very divisive, but I still think for the pros we need to rotate it just because. Yeah. It means that we are going to see different performances. Like one of the things I keep talking about St. George is the fact that we have other players. It is not a foregone conclusion that Jan Frodeno is going to win St. George. And that's why, I've even heard Jan come out in videos and he say, yeah, but it's not Kona. Like almost like and again, I don't know whether, Jan, it's very easy to put words in your mouth. And that's what I do. I'm just speculating here. But is that because he knows he's going to dominate that Kona race and the St. George thing is a little uncertain? So it's like, yeah, I just don't know, mate. Like I think I like this approach, and it's taken the emotion out a little bit, and it's going, no, I don't buy into the hype of Kona. He might someday. It is a title that he probably wants to get at some point, but go, you know what? Actually, no, I'm just gonna let's have St. George. Let's see how that goes. I'm still not sure about it. And I mean, we talk about the fact that he doesn't win many races. The fact he got 8th at the Olympics. I wonder if you talked to a lot of Ironman champions. Let's say you've won Ironman Maryland, or you've won Ironman Australia, or you've won Ironman New Zealand. I don't know, Ironman Bristol, UK, whatever it is. If you said to them, you can have your Ironman win, or you can come top 10 at the Olympics. Which would you choose? What do you think most of them would say? Legitimately, I might be wrong here, but I reckon most would take the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, because there's only one winner at the Olympics, it's sometimes easy to disregard the finishing position that you can get in the Olympic finals. But, coming 8th at the Olympics, most people from any sport would bite your arm off to be 8th in the world at the elite level within your own sport. Ironman Bristol, eh?
Is that a race? I don't know.
It's not a race.
Is Bristol a place?
It is, yeah.
Bolton.
Yeah.
Bolton is the word I was thinking of.
Yeah, Bolton's what you're on.
I find it very interesting that people just Gustav Iden is not a bad short course athlete. You know what I mean?
No.
He is a very he's a very competitive short. He's made podiums. He's done. We've seen, like I said, 8th at the Olympics. But people just for some reason recently are just like, no, just give it up.
It's because the perception and the audience base within triathlon is predominantly long course because it's a participation model. You don't have the audience base coming from the Olympics and short course zone. All the audience is coming from the long course. So as soon as they see he can do a long course race and he can do it well, it's like, well, that must be because that's what I do. That must be the pinnacle. Whereas in reality, all the funding, all the strategic planning, all the coaching is geared towards Olympic success and short course success. It's not geared towards long course success.
And you know what? Like that Ironman Florida race, well, I think the results, both races were really, really impressive. They were boring, man. Like I've really had this thing where I think it was the tri battle that it sort of broke something in my brain a little bit. Where, because I've always been quite happy to have an Ironman race when I just watch it, but I think it was either staying awake. It just was like, I can't keep doing this. Like this isn't a good time for me. Sitting up all night to watch a time trial bait. Like there's nothing for it. And I mean, I enjoyed watching the Gustav Lionel battle, which was an hour and a half of a 7.5 hour race. But the rest of it, I was like, what is this? Why am I doing this to myself?
I could picturing yourself like some sort of recovering addict. I can't keep doing this to myself at 3 a.m. watching a solo runner.
Sitting in my room with my hoodie on, with my phone on, watching Cozumel this weekend. With like, my wife rolls over. She's like, "What are you doing?" "Nothing. Go back to sleep. Leave me alone." But again, I think we forget these Norwegians are so young, mate, and they've still got probably another 1 or 2 Olympics in them. I don't know. Keep going. Just do everything. Who cares? Have fun. That's the thing. Yeah. I like the fact that Gustav's just like, I want to have fun, and I have as much fun doing a race that's over in 40 minutes as I do as one that takes me 7.5 hours. So, yeah, good on him.
Good on him. All power to you, Gustav.
Next one. This one comes from Graham Shaw at Try247. And again, I don't think it's controversial, but it might be controversial for some of our listeners, so I apologize in advance. But it comes from one of the absolute legends of the sport, Mark Allen, and he says, weather is affecting our sport. This is about triathlon and climate change. Triathlon great Mark Allen says weather is affecting our sport and that climate change is probably to blame. While Allen admits that the impact on major triathlon events is well down the priority list of issues likely caused by climate change, he says recent high-profile examples do highlight it. Ironman California was cancelled just an hour before the planned start with a bomb cyclone when a bomb cyclone hit the Sacramento area, causing high winds and flooding. Ironman Florida in Panama City Beach produced horrendous conditions for swimmers, with pro races around 10 minutes slower than had been expected. Speaking in a video on his YouTube channel, 6-time Ironman world champion Allen tackled the topic using those 2 recent US races to make a point. Weather is affecting races. Weather is affecting outdoor events in ways that seem to be more on a consistent basis. And it's not just this year or this weekend. It's been really going on for a while. Fast forward to the next time they have Ironman California in Sacramento a couple of weeks ago, in a state that probably has the worst combination of drought and fires put together, the race is cancelled because of torrential rains. How crazy is that? I've obviously left a paragraph out there. I'm sorry about that. Ironman Florida last weekend, the swim was horrendous. Wind and chop made it really difficult. One of the age group women was commenting that her absolute slowest time in a swim in Ironman was 1 hour 38. She swam 2 hours 45. Obviously didn't make the cutoff time over an hour slower. She said at one point she was swimming next to a buoy for over 15 minutes without making 1 inch of progress. Climate change is the cause. There's a question mark. I was trying to escalate the end of that sentence to get the question mark in. Allen believes the evidence of change is clear, and he's pretty sure what the reason is. The 63-year-old does retain hope, though, that things can be done to stem the tide. Weather is affecting our sport. Weather is affecting all outdoor activities. It's not as predictable as maybe it was 20 or 30 years ago. It's the reality that we're having to deal with. Climate change? Probably. Is there anything we can do about it? I hope so. Is it the most important aspect of saving the planet's climate? No. Racing is not the most important thing, but it's a window into showing us how things are changing. I have faith in humanity, though, and I have faith in all of you. Jimbo, this is something we discuss a fair bit offline, so I have a pretty good idea of where your head is going to be around this, but for the listeners, feel free to enlighten them.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of irrelevant, really, whether he says the implications of climate change on triathlon is where it sits on the priority list, because it is a key indicator. It's a metric. It's a key indicator. I mean, it is something that climate change is having quite a big impact on all areas of life. And you can see that these symptoms of that within the impact it has on triathlon. And he's right. We are seeing more disrupted racing. We are seeing more unpredictable weather patterns. We are seeing warmer winters and cooler summers, warmer winters and more sort of more rain,
less
more wind,
traditional,
more storms,
less traditional seasons, less defined seasons. Yeah,
and so man, I concur. And if the impact on triathlon has the ability to even change a few people's minds on climate change and help us push in the right direction, then have at it. We'll take everything we can get at the moment, eh?
There's a reason one of the main reasons I wanted to include this, and this isn't, I'm not trying to get on a soapbox, even though this is my soapbox and preach, was I liked what he talked about, how viewing what's happening in triathlon is a very good indicator. Like, I thought that was a very, a useful thing, I suppose, because it's probably something that, I think a lot about climate change, and I know, and I'm not here to judge, I'm not trying to make people if they don't want to, but I think it is sort of, if maybe you haven't really been interested in the past, maybe you've been noticing the fact that and I'm not talking to you, James, I'm talking to you, the listener, but is this idea that, maybe you're starting to go, shit, yeah, there's been a lot happening with races where races keep getting cancelled or things are changing or that race is extra hot or like maybe it is something that like that thought process will eventually lead to further questions and things about climate change and stuff like that. So
ultimately, the only thing that's going to be a real driver of change is when we see the implications of climate change reach into people's everyday lives. Yeah. And this is just an example of how it is reaching into everyday life, reaching into racing and calendars. And like we saw what happened in California and, storms like that coming, it's going to be more and more frequent.
The other thing as well, I think it's good when you look at what's happening in endurance sports, because this isn't happening in isolation, but I think you're starting to see a lot of brands who are starting to do their bit. I can give an example. I started working with a sunglasses company the last couple of weeks called We Are Sun God, and their whole thing is like, I think the bags that your sunglasses come in are recycled. The idea is you get one pair of, and sorry, this isn't a plug for their product, but I think they're great. But you get one pair of sunglasses, and then if anything goes wrong with it, instead of just chucking them out and buying a new pair, you send it in and they fix it because they don't want to keep having like waste. And even the plastic they use is recycled. Like I think that you're starting to see brands in our sphere starting to, I guess, make do things to try to fix it. I guess not fix it, but make the impact less.
There's a thirst for it by the consumer, and ultimately we live in a capitalist society, don't we? So if the change will be driven by what the consumer will purchase, and if there's a thirst for more sustainable products, more sustainable packaging, then that shows a sort of atmospheric change in the in consumer-led society.
Now, you may think that this is a strategic placement of the following article, and it is. And that is, this came from Tim Moria from Try Today. And the news is, Ironman fails to comply with waste laws in Mallorca and receives a €75,000 fine. Ironman made a big mistake on October 16th by not adhering to some fundamental points of the waste law during Ironman Mallorca. The organisation will now regret this because meaty ambient agents have now issued a fine of no less than €75,000. The fundamental points of the waste law that Ironman failed to comply with during the race in mid-October are mandatory on the Spanish island for organisers of sporting events. The most important point is that waste must be properly separated and that clearly did not happen. Failure to comply with this rule is considered very serious on Mallorca. In addition, reusable bottles and or cups were not used at aid stations. Ironman has 10 days to appeal the fine. Ironman did not make itself very popular on the island anyway by organising their race on the same day as Challenge Mallorca. So speaking of climate change, Jimbo, there's an example.
When you're the lead organisation within a sport, and you're the name that comes to mind when people think about long course racing, even if you're not a triathlete, then you've got to be setting the standard.
I feel like we discussed this. It might have been over a year ago. I'm scratching the back of my head at this, but there was something where they were saying you got instead of using cups, they gave you like pouches of water that came in a biodegradable seaweed or something. Was it or something?
Yeah, seaweed drink bottles.
Was that Ironman? Was Ironman the ones doing that?
I believe so.
Well done. There you go. On one hand, give it, the other take it away.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a mistake and probably something the organisation wouldn't have intentionally gone down the road of doing. But I mean, the point about them organising their race on the same day as Challenge Mallorca was a valid one. Stop doing that, for God's sake.
Stop doing
the races on the same day. It was so confusing, and you're halving your market as well, because those people living on Mallorca who want to do that, do an Ironman race, may have done both if they were a month apart, but instead they're going to choose one.
It is something that has to stop. Hey, it's like in Australia we could literally have races 365 days of the year down here, because you just move to different parts of the country at the cold or warm, whenever it is, and they still seem to manage to fit them all within this like really tight window where it's almost just space them out, guys.
You'll find that you'll think about doing a Ironman 70.3 in the UK, and then you'll think, oh, maybe I'll do Outlaw at the same time, and they'll be on the same weekend, and it's insane. It's like
ridiculous, isn't it?
We've got like 4 major 70.3 races in the UK. There are enough weeks in the year to spread these things about.
I don't know, is there?
But anyway,
is there
race
in the UK,
race in the UK.
I thought you guys only have like
the
one good
will be
weekend.
cancelled because the weather's rubbish, and it won't really be a triathlon. So don't bother. Race abroad, I say.
I've heard that they've actually redefined triathlon in the UK to be a run bike run. You guys don't call it duathlon; you call that a triathlon now. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, run by
Yeah.
run. But you've
Yeah.
got to bring your wetsuit. So you've got to have your wetsuit. You set it all out as if you're doing the swim, and then it's a run by run. It's a strange tradition we have.
Yet you're still so good in the water. I don't get it. It baffles me when you watch the short course race and there's bloody British female athletes. I don't like it. James Bell, some exciting news from the world of Xterra, and I can hear our rabid Xterra fans getting excited that we are covering Xterra on the MX Endurance podcast. You think we do it more considering the X thing. Again, back to triathlon today, and it's official. Flora Duffy from Bermuda and Bradley Weiss from South Africa will be back in Maui for the 25th Xterra World Championships to defend their titles on December 5th, 2021. Duffy, the Olympic gold medalist and WTS world champion, will be after her 5th Xterra world title. She'll take on a strong field in Hawaii that includes 2021 ITU Cross Tri-World champion Loane Duviosin, whoops-a-daisy, 2019 ITU Cross Tri-champion Eleonora Peroncini, and 2018 Xterra World's runner-up Michelle Filippo, 4-time Xterra US world champs Susie Snyder, and 5-time world champ Melanie McQuaid. Maui will be my last race of 2021, and I plan to stay in Hawaii through to Christmas week. Hopefully, mostly on Kauai, where I've not been, and I want to explore. She said, "I need a big reset after this year, and I'm hopeful the additional time in Hawaii on Hawaiian beaches will be a good start to that goal." Weiss will be competing in this weekend's Ironman African Championships before heading to Hawaii to try to defend his world's title. According to Xterra, Weiss will be up against 7-time world champion Ruben Ruzafa, 2018 Xterra world champion Rom Ackerson, and 2016 Xterra world champ Mauricio Mendez, 2015 winner Josiah Midor, and 21 ITU Cross Tri World champion Arthur Serias. Jesus, there's some names there. We're also going to have
that was a journey for you, that wasn't it?
Eric Lagerstrom, Tokyo Olympic bronze medalist Hayden Wild. You know, James Bell, before we talk about the thoughts, I'm reading a book series. I'm listening to the audiobook series called June at the moment. I know you're familiar with it. And one of the things I find I'm actually starting to appreciate after reading this is the main character's name's like Paul. It's like this huge, crazy world with all these incredible things, and then it's just like Paul. And it keeps catching me off guard. But in this one, I was like, can we just have some more Pauls racing this bloody race, please? Because that was
classic science fiction literature, mate. In fact, I'm going to see the new film in Orlando tomorrow night.
Paul. Anyway,
yeah,
Xterra World Champs.
Xterra World Champ. I mean, good to see Flora Duffy doing what she does. She hails from Xterra. She's got bike handling skills to die for, and it'd be great to see her go and defend that title. Bradley Weiss, again, another quality Xterra athlete, someone with a lot to achieve over there. But I am more interested in seeing what Olympic bronze medalist Hayden Wild does when he steps back into the Xterra fold, because he ain't too bad on a bike, is he? And I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him do well.
I'd like to see him pick up that world title. Yeah, I'll be honest. I am definitely more interested in this Xterra than I've been in possibly any Xterra that's ever happened before, solely because Hayden's racing it. And having Flora Duffy there also doesn't hurt. I think a lot of people maybe forget the fact that she's won like 10,000 Xterra world titles. It's very impressive. I just come on, Flora.
She's such a quality athlete across the board, mate. There's a lot more to come. I want to see her do all the long course racing. I want to see her do Paris. I want to see her do everything.
I know we're getting towards the end of the year and we're going to have to start thinking about very soon we're going to have to start thinking about the MX Endurance Podcast Awards. And I genuinely think the hardest award this year is going to be about Female Triathlete of the Year, because I think if you look at Flora Duffy and Lucy Charles-Barclay together, it's going to be hard to split those two for very different reasons. And man, I'm really excited about that episode actually. So we're going to have to start getting that organized in the next few weeks.
Spoiler alert, it's Duffy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would have... I'll save it because I have many. I'm not sure it is, to be honest. She won last year. Don't forget, we gave her Female Triathlete of the Year last year, and I mean, an Olympic gold medal in WTS World Series is it's a pretty good resume. But I don't know, mate. I don't think it's like. I mean, I think it probably is, but I don't know. Lucy Charles-Barclay has done some stuff this year, mate. So
yeah, Lucy Charles-Barclay is a superstar of the sport, but her star is still rising, and she's got. What
are you saying about Flora Duffy, mate? What are you implying for Flora Duffy? Is her star falling?
No, but what I'm saying is, with what's on the agenda for Lucy Charles-Barclay over the next few years, she's got the opportunity to really cement herself as the MX Endurance female triathlete of the year 2022, 2023.
The most prestigious
it's
award in
all she thinks
triathlon.
about. It's all she thinks about, I think.
PTO ranking. No, thank you. No, thank you. I want the MX Endurance Podcast Award. Mate, there's some races happening this weekend. I don't know if you've been following the news lately, but there's one in particular that people are getting very, very excited about. I think we're going to start there, and that is Ironman Cozumel is happening this weekend. Let's start with the pro women. Who's racing James Bell? From Australia and top-ranked PTO athlete, we have Carrie Lester. She was also the winner from when the race was held last in 2019. Lester set the course record of 8 hours, 38 minutes, 41 seconds, and the bike course record of 4:38:35 2 years ago. Lester has won twice over the distance already this year, Embrum and Coeur d'Alene, and one more would enable her to match her triple success in 2019. Another female to watch is Michelle Vesterby. Sorry, I should say I got this from Tri247 John Levinson. Another female to watch is Michelle Vesterby from Denmark. Was the Cozumel champion 5 years ago, and she was also third behind Lester in 2019. A winner at Lanzarote and bronze medalist at the World Triathlon Long Distance Championships in Almere show that she's on form to challenge the podium once again. As an extra incentive, Vesterby could make a significant move up the PTO rankings with a strong performance, as her current status of number 53 is significantly impacted by a low score from Challenge Daytona 2020. Even a small jump into the top 50 would be worth $3,000. The other female athlete that we should watch is Sarah Crowley, also from Australia. She was third in Kona in both 2017 and 2019 and has won Ironman Continental Championship races in Frankfurt and Cairns and won a 70 points in Ecuador this year. She also boasts an ITU Long Distance Triathlon World Championship title, and this could be the chance for her to end 2021 on a high. Let's have a talk about the women's race first, James Bale. What do you reckon?
Yeah, there's a lot of noise going into this race weekend, and the women's side of it is at risk of being overshadowed by the noise on the men's side. But there's some quality. There's a quality field here with some quality athletes, and I think Carrie Lester is likely to take it out with her.
Interesting.
With being the course record holder and bike record holder from 2 years ago, I think she'll bring some quality to that field and consistency. And that's where my bets would be. What are your thoughts?
See, I'm leaning towards Sarah Crowley only because I've been quite harsh on Sarah this year because I don't think she's had the sort of success that we expect from Sarah. But Sarah is very good at the iron distance. I mean, the fact that she's podiumed in Kona twice in a very hot race, I think this is it's a little bit later than normal, but she hasn't had that late season hot, hard Ironman, and this could be it. This could be the race where she gets that Kona performance out of her system, and I think if she does, I think she'd almost be impossible to beat, mate, to be honest. Like, I really think Sarah will obviously want it. She's such a class athlete, and we know how good she can be, and I think this is her opportunity to show us this is how good she is. So I reckon Sarah Crowley is absolutely one to watch. I mean, you're right, Carrie Lester and Michelle Vesterby also. There's other women racing. I just wanted to pick the three that I thought were the ones that I was probably most familiar with. But yeah, I'm going to probably go with Sarah Crowley, to be honest.
We will see, Mr. Ford, shall we?
We will.
It's going to be an interesting weekend of racing.
Yeah, men's race is probably where there's a bit of conversation. A few things have been discussed because some guy's making his debut there. I think it's not Gustav, it's the other one.
The other one. Interchangeable Norwegian triathletes.
Given Gustav's performance in Ironman Florida, all indications are that it is not unreasonable to expect something pretty special from the Olympic and world champion Kristian Blummenfelt. That's the name. Sorry. Whoops. We've been covering his build-up towards Cozumel. He specifically talked about taking learnings from Gustav's full-distance debut and applying that to his own race. So there's plenty of positives for him there. So that's his Ironman debut. We're going to talk about it at the end. But the other names, because there are some red-hot names on this list, to be honest. First is Patrick Nilsson from Sweden, has already taken down one Norwegian on his debut as he took an impressive victory at the Ironman European Championships in Frankfurt, leaving Kasper Stornes licking his wounds with the DNF. We also have Michael Weiss from Austria, is the horse for courses pick with Ironman Cozumel wins in 2013, 14, 18, second in 17 and 19, third in 15 and fourth in 2016. I think he likes this race, mate. I think it's fair to say that Michael Weiss likes this race. Peter Heimrich from Belgium was almost an ever-present on podiums around the world between 2016 and 2020, claiming a bucket load of Challenge Family and Ironman 70.3 titles along the way. 2021 hasn't quite been so fruitful, though. Fourth place in a very competitive race in Frankfurt and St. George qualification was his best of the year as he tries to transition his uber-consistent middle-distance performance to long-course racing. He's currently ranked 103. That does not reflect his talents and ability. And then an interesting one on the list, and whether he is racing on it, I do not know, but I kind of expect he will, is Cameron Worth. Having raced Gustav in Florida, will he be in Cozumel to race Kristian too? Quite possibly. Given the race at Panama City ended halfway through the bike due to sickness, he should be pretty well recovered. Worth's win at Ironman Copenhagen, beating Lionel Sanders in the process, was very impressive for the Ironman World Championships 2019 fifth place finisher. He's another athlete for whom a strong result would see a material improvement and more money with a PTO award rankings rise. Let's talk about Ironman Cozumel, mate.
Yeah, it's a deep field, this, isn't it? And like you say, we've got some names on there. I'm really keen to see whether Cameron Worth turns up and races or not, because he's got a bit quiet recently, and I'm interested to see what direction he takes over the next sort of 12 to 14 months.
Expand.
But, yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't know. I just feel like he's had that impressive win at Ironman Copenhagen, and I'm just not sure though whether he's going to convert that to championship success anywhere. And
St. George?
Yeah, possibly, but it's he'll be there racing it. But I'm starting to feel like Cameron Worth may not be the success story we were kind of expecting him to be a few years ago.
A victim of COVID?
Yeah,
maybe?
Possibly. Yeah, exactly. Possibly that. But I mean, ultimately, it all comes down to Kristian Blummenfelt in this race, doesn't it? Can the Norwegian sort of powerhouse success train can keep rolling on? Can Kristian Blummenfelt have the same impact that Gustav Iden's had on his first Ironman race? Can he win it? The expectation is yes.
I heard Joe Skipper on his podcast, Triathlon Mockery, talking about the fact that he had heard whispers that Kristian could be going for an Ironman world record. And that, I love it. I love it so much. I love the fact that he has this approach where he's just like, yeah, why not? I'm that. I don't know. Have you been seeing? I know there's been a lot of talk. Jenna posted it in the MX group yesterday, and it was the fact that last weekend he did a 190-kilometer bike ride on the Saturday and then a 40-kilometer run on the Sunday. And I even heard Joe, and I've seen other people saying that he's probably overcooked himself. And I just can't help thinking that, like I said this before, you sort of have to throw the rule book out with these Norwegian guys a little bit. Like what has worked for people in the past. I don't think there's probably ever been athletes who have had this super, super, super scientific approach that Kristian, Gustav, and Kasper have had. And Kristian has a number of reasons why I think he could do something really special. Number one, he's had the ability to train longer than Gustav did. He's had the ability to see how both Kasper and Gustav went and take away the key learnings from both of their performances. And he's Kristian fucking Blummenfelt. He's won the Olympic gold medal and the World Triathlon Series this year. He is in red hot form. He's going for the Sub7 next year. And I just genuinely think he can do anything he wants, mate. Like, I wonder, because people have been quite critical and skeptical of these Norwegians saying they come out, think they can do it, they think it's easy. We've seen people's attitudes towards Gustav have changed in the last few weeks. And I wonder whether Kristian sort of benefits from that, or if there is still this belief where, like, how dare you disrespect the distance? Like, do you think people are starting to go, they're not, like, maybe they do know what they're talking about? I don't know. What do you think?
At what point do the naysayers kind of get on board a little bit? Because we've seen the approach that the Norwegians are taking doubted so many times. We've seen the naysayers come out and say, oh, he won't do this and they won't do that. And they seem to be ticking those boxes all the time. This, I think, will be the final hurdle for belief. If Kristian Blummenfelt can come out this weekend and have a really, really strong result in Cozumel, then a lot of people will go, okay, all right, then maybe the Ironman distance isn't a step too far for the success story that we're seeing here. If he can win this race and win it comfortably, then I think there won't be many naysayers left who don't believe that they can go on to much greater things in the future.
One reason I really hope Cam Worth does come into this race red hot is I'd like to see, because Kristian will probably get out of the swim a bit before Cam, is to then see Cam come through and Kristian will go with Cam, I reckon. And I think Cam's way of riding will actually enable Kristian to almost just sit in. I don't think he's going to draft, but like not have to set the pace, but
I know what you mean.
Stick with Cam. And that could set Kristian up for, like, I have two schools of thought. Number one, I kind of just want to see him go himself and see what he can do in a solo effort off the front. But I think I'd probably be more interested in seeing what he could do, like what Gustav sort of did, where Gustav just wanted to learn. And I think the more I think about that performance, I genuinely think that's what he did. He allowed everybody else to set the pace until nobody could keep up with him. Like, that was a really interesting approach. And I hope Kristian does it. My concern, the only thing that I'm, like, not sure about is Kristian, to me, seems like a much more emotional athlete. And I don't think that's the right term, but he's like, I think Gustav is very much like very calm, cool, and collected, where Kristian is a lot more. There's a lot more bravado, and that's why I love him. But I think that could potentially, like, that could be risky because he's gonna, we saw him at Super League Malibu in the heat, just go kaboom, I'm gonna win this thing. You're gonna pay the price if you do that at an Ironman. If you come out the blocks red hot and don't have the patience to build into the run and make sure you set yourself up for that finish, that's what I think could do him in. The other guys can't let him race the way he wants to race. They have to put him under pressure. They have to. Otherwise, I think this is going to be Kristian's.
Yeah, I agree. And you're right to highlight the methodical and calm nature of Gustav. He races very much in a, it's not that hard. I'm just doing it. I'm going through the motions. And when everybody else falls off, he can then speed up because he's got that capacity and that depth. Kristian has got more of a blunderbuss type approach, off the front, hard as I can possibly go until people fall off.
Yep.
Now, will that strategy and will that approach to racing translate across to Ironman? We will find out this weekend. Will he adapt? Will he change his approach? Will he be, with 10K to go, absolutely rinsing himself off the front, in looking to be in an absolute world of pain with his facial expressions?
He's always looked like that, though.
Yeah, man. I'm keen to find out. I'm very keen to find out.
And the next thing I want to finish up with, though, is if it doesn't go according to plan, if we see Kristian Blummenfelt have this huge explosion, he walks the run, whatever it is, let's say he doesn't have the same Gustav performance. What do you think that's going to mean? Do you think that's going to cause those naysays to get even louder? Or do you think it could maybe make him go, you know what, Sub7's not looking so good next year. St. George isn't looking so good next year. Why don't I just keep doing, what do you think the implications could be if he doesn't have the race that we all expect him to have?
And then it will be just a learning point, and it'll be collection of data, collection of information for a very, very strategic approach, which is what they take. Now, I think the interesting thing is he's doing this race, and yes, we're all on board and we're all keen to see how it comes out, but ultimately it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This race doesn't matter to him. The implications on his career, if he doesn't succeed in this, are nothing but to take away the information and take away the results of where he succeeded, where he failed, and to refine that into next year's big efforts.
I find it interesting, and this is, again, just an observation, but it's almost probably been a good thing. Kristian has sort of flown under the radar. The fact that everybody was talking about Gustav racing Jan and then Gustav racing Lionel, I really feel like Kristian has had this ability. Again, we're talking about the Olympic and WTS world champion, and everybody was talking about Gustav. And I think that's probably been quite good for Kristian in the fact that I don't feel like there's been, I felt that Gustav went into that Florida race with a lot of expectations on his shoulder. And while I think I have a lot of expectations for Kristian, I get the impression that the wider triathlon community doesn't seem to have those same expectations for Kristian. And I find that super fascinating. I mean, we are talking about the 70.3 world record holder. He's probably one of the only, if not the only person to beat Gustav at a 70.3. They are of the same caliber. Kristian had the mechanical at St. George. But yeah, he's almost just flown under the radar, and people are like, "Oh,
do you think
right,
that's
Kristian's
because he is Olympic champion?" And people just go, "Well, you can't be Olympic champion and long course champion in the same year or the same."
I wonder.
The same period.
That's a good point.
Ultimately, a subconscious thing says, "Well, Gustav's finishing 8th, so he might still be he might be able to translate across easier."
Do you think Kristian would like that, or it would annoy him? Do you think he's sitting there going, "Why? What the fuck? Why are people talking?"
He'll like it. I think he loves the narrative.
I just love watching race. We're going to stay on the Kristian thing because the next thing I wanted to touch on is an interview or a piece that John Levinson at Try 24/7, and it's sort of the complete opposite of Gustav, and that's that 2022 is all about Ironman for Kristian Blummenfelt. He will take the learnings from Mexico this weekend into a year where he will have 3 major targets, all in long distance racing. He's got the St. George 2021 World Championships, the Sub7 project, which will see him go and Alistair Brownlee try to break the 7-hour mark, and the Ironman 2022 World Championships in Kona. He said 2022 is all about learning how to race an Ironman and Ironman distance and go in Sub7. As ever with the Norwegian generation, testing and science plays a huge part in understanding what they are capable of going into the races. The preparation in Cozumel has been no different. Here, when we are in Sierra Nevada for 5 weeks, we are doing testing to the next level. I can't really say everything we do here, but I've never been doing so much testing. Every day we measure the response of the altitude, and we will have some bigger projects coming on as well. also to be part of that, and all the experience and knowledge we have on the back end of being involved in a project like this is something that will help me for the future as well. While 2022 will very much be a full distance endeavour for Blummenfelt, he will be returning to short course racing after that, primarily with the goal of retaining his Olympic title in Paris in 2024. So it's all about Ironman now, and then I want to use 2023 and 2024 to take advantage of Super League and World Series to get some speed again, and then be able to defend my title in Paris, because that's something I also want to be able to do. I love it, mate.
It relates back to what I was saying a minute ago. They have a strategy, they have a roadmap, they have all of these races planned in and programmed in. It's all about gathering data, and tweaking their methodology to get themselves there. And ultimately, Cozumel doesn't matter other than for that reason, because what does matter to him is St. George in Utah in May, the Sub7 project, and then the 2022 Ironman World Championships in Kona. Those are the results he wants. Those are the things he's going to be targeting, and all power to him. I hope they achieve it, mate. I would love to see Kristian Blummenfelt just blow the world away.
Win everything, man. Again, I don't see a downside to it. Have it all. Good. I love it. I love what he brings to the sport. I mean, if you listen to this a few months, you've probably heard me say that about 10,000 times. Jimbo, I have done a lot of talk in this episode like I normally do, but I thought we got another race happening. I actually think this race has probably got a better field, a deeper field anyway, but we've got Ironman South Africa happening this weekend. I'm going to allow you to take the lead and run us through this event.
Yeah, we took some information for Twi 24/7 for this. On the men's side, home favourite and 2018 champion Carl Buckingham will be wearing number 1 this weekend. Born in Port Elizabeth, Buckingham turns 38 next week. Another headline name that's heading there is Sebastian Kienle, with his recent announcement that he's going to be retiring at end of 2023. Then he's heading out to South Africa to start his assault on 2022, and I think he'll be carrying some form, mate. I don't see Sebastian Kienle going out there to race up the numbers. Another athlete that is going out there is Niels Fromhold, winner in 2014. He was also second in both 2017, 2019, and so he's got a clear pedigree with this race. And we'll see Rasmus Svenningsson from Sweden also heading out there, who is 14 ranked in the PTO rankings. He's 28. He's won Ironman Lake Placid and finished second at Ironman Austria this year. He was set to race in Sacramento before the weather took hold and derailed that.
What happened?
Derailed that race. Sam Lado from France is also going to be out there. He's 22 years old and he's done an 8:05 for the iron distance at 20 years of age. So he's got a lot to come. So it's going to be. I quite like this field, mate, because
it's a good field, mate.
We've got age and experience. We've got Kienle, Buckingham, but then you've got these younger, fast twitch guys coming up through as well, and it's going to be an interesting race. And I think Ironman are doing the coverage on this one as well as the Cozumel race, so you'll be able to completely saturate your weekend with Ironman racing.
You know what? I rag on Ironman, but I give them credit where credit's due. They've been doing an excellent job with their broadcasting. I mean, like I said earlier, I am struggling to get through a whole Ironman race these days, but I still appreciate the fact that they're doing it. Like, you think back to even a couple of years ago, there's no chance this is a championship race, so this one probably would have been broadcast, but like Cozumel or Florida, like, they're not races that you would probably have expected to see covered the way they were. Like, I think they really have lifted their game a bit, and I appreciate that. So, Ironman, thank you very much. You said something about Sebastian Kienle, which I think is incredibly valid. You're not going to see him there to make up the numbers. He's had this Achilles injury. If he's going for this race, I would assume that he knows he's going to be okay, because Christ, I want to see Sebastian Kienle get some results this year. He was so good at the Collins Cup, and him on a start list is always something I get really excited about. But the name that I am talking about is Rasmus Svenningsson, because we have heard so much about this guy. I have heard so many people talking about how good he is, how good he's going to be, and he was one of the people that I was really, really interested to see in that Sacramento race. So now we've got him racing here. I'm really curious to see what he does and see if all the hype is worthy, I guess, or I don't know. Like, I'm genuinely excited to see him race.
Yeah, we've had more than 2 or 3 people who've contacted us and said, "Look, this is a guy to watch. This is a guy with real talent. So bring it on.
Yeah, big time.
Go at it, Rasmus." On the women's side, unfortunately, it's quite a small pro field on the women's side, comprising only 11 athletes, and that's 11 athletes on the start list, assuming that everyone's going to actually turn up and race. Imogen Simmons is probably one of the biggest names racing, and also Ruth Astle, who's just coming off the back of her win in Ironman Mallorca. Manon Guenet as well will also be there from France. But it's unfortunate that it's such a small, limited pro field on the women's side. I like to see bigger races than this.
I've seen a lot of talk about Imogen Simmons probably not racing because of what happened to her in Florida. And again, something interesting is you think about the Lionel Sanders. Where did he walk? Where did Lionel walk? Where was the race that he had? Maybe he had the shocker. Was that Coeur d'Alene?
I can't remember. But I got the image of him
was
walking in my head.
I think it was Coeur d'Alene. I mean Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb, I think. And he backed up and then backed up and backed up, and he backed up quite well. And what we were talking about when we were talking about Lionel was the fact that because he sort of backed off and walked a lot of that run, he recovered quite well. And I think Imogen Simmons did end up walking a bit of the run in Florida. I mean, if she's gone completely to the hurt locker and has just been a mess the entire time, maybe not. But if she has actually, had to take it easy, maybe she's probably quite well rested and just wants to, again, she's feeling like she's in form and wants to try to use that form for a result. I think if Imogen Simmons starts this race, she's going to win it, to be honest. I think Imogen Simmons is red hot. And Ruth Astle, again, incredible athlete as well. But I really rate Imogen Simmons, and I think that if she's on, it should be hard to beat. So
yeah, I tend to agree with you.
Jimbo, what's next?
Welcome to the down low on the PTO. Mate, this is following on from last week's discussion we had about they appear
disappointing.
They appear to be loving their Instagram polls at the moment, and we've had the continuation of the fan voted awards and with the most improved athlete. I thought we'd go through the semi-final results. On the men's side, it was Daniel Beckegaard versus Sam Long, with Sam Long coming out on top. On the women's side, it was Taylor Knibb versus Emma Pallant-Brown, with Taylor Knibb coming out on top. And so at the moment, we've got a head-to-head with Taylor Knibb versus Sam Long, and Sam, at the point of recording, was winning with 55% to Taylor's 45%. So
who'd you vote for?
For those two,
yeah,
I voted for Taylor Knibb.
Interesting. I voted for Sam because I don't like this. I spoke about it a lot last week, where I think that I think there's a lot of athletes who are left off this list, and I said I still think Magnus Ditlev is the most improved this year, but Lionel Sanders should have been in there. Lucy Charles Barclay should have been in there. Sam Long and Taylor Knibb are both incredible athletes, but they're incredible athletes. I haven't seen Sam make a significant improvement this year. He started the year good, and he's finished in the year good. Where's the improvement?
I agree with you. When it comes to these two athletes head to head, then I will choose Taylor Knibb over Sam Long. But
she started winning. She won Yokohama. And she again, I don't see the improvement. That's what I can't wrap my head around. I feel like it's just a popularity vote.
Well,
that's what annoys me a bit.
I think if you're looking at a career progression thing, then yeah, Taylor Knibb is very impressive. But there are athletes who, within this 12-month period, have improved to a greater extent than she has. I think, like you say, like we both said last week, Magnus Ditlev is an athlete that is very much worthy of this title. But the people have spoken, bro.
By this logic, Flora Duffy should be in there, mate, because Flora Duffy didn't win anything at the start of the year, and then she went to the Olympics and fucking won, and then she's maybe I'm making the mistake of assuming it is just a 2021 thing, but again, I don't like this one. I don't like that it's so vague, and I really, really, really disagree with the outcomes of this one. And I very rarely will go out with a strong opinion on something, but this one, legitimately, I think it's a mistake. I think there's so many
triathletes have short memories, mate. Like you say, it's a name recognition popularity contest.
Gustav Iden should have been then. You know what I mean? He apparently went shit at the Olympics. He only came 8th, and he didn't win any WTCS races. Then he went on and won 70.3 Worlds, and then he won. It's the same. I just don't see the difference. Why are these guys considered to? Yeah, again, and I'm not. This is not me criticizing. I think Sam Long and in fact, I think every athlete on this list is actually legitimately incredible athletes. I just don't think they're most improved this year. I think they'd I would put Taylor Knibb and Sam Long as contenders for athlete of the year. But we spoke about Lucy Charles and Flora Duffy. I'd put Taylor Nebb right into that conversation too. Sam Long has been incredible. That sprint finish with Lionel Sanders, second place at 70.3 worlds, win in Coeur d'Alene. Again, I think it was Coeur d'Alene. Sam's been incredible this year too, and I don't see anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. I'll stop ranting.
I think as an example of what you just said, Taylor Nebb will likely be in our long list of female triathlete of the year when we give out the MX awards. So
definitely performance.
She won't be in the most improved performance category. No. She'll be in the triathlete of the year category.
I would legitimately put her Collins Cup performance as a serious contender for performance of the year. That was same as Edmonton. Those are two of the best performances I've seen this year. Like, I can probably think of three off the top of my head that really stand out to me to be Taylor Nebb at the Collins Cup, Lucy Charles at 70.3 worlds, Flora Duffy at the Olympics. Those three are the first to just come to mind straight away. And then the more I think about it, there's others. But man, yeah. I'm looking forward to the awards, and you guys should too. All of our members get to vote. And if you want to vote, James Bell, what you need to do is go to mxendurance.com/podcast, where you can sign up for one of our podcast memberships, price as little as $3.40 a month if you join one of our annual plans. Or you can go and do the monthly plan and use our 2-month free code at the moment. Take all the episodes and leave. I don't think you will, but there's that option there for you. It helps us. It supports us. It's how we allocate resources to the podcast. It's how we get to places like potentially St. George to do coverage around the races. It all helps us to continue to do this podcast. As you can see, we've invested things like the video podcast. We've got an editor who does it for us now. We are continuing to make the podcast better, and that is all thanks to the people like you who listen, who have gone to mxendurance.com/podcast, signed up to support us to continue to do this podcast. Me and James always get a real little kick out of it when we see a new member come through. So it is absolutely appreciated. We would encourage you all to do it because we love doing this podcast. We want to keep doing it. And the way to keep us doing it is to go to mxendurance.com/podcast. James Bale, if they want to find out other things about what we do at MX Endurance, where do they need to go?
If you want to find out more about MX Endurance, head to mxendurance.com or search MX Endurance on Facebook or at MX Endurance on Twitter or Instagram. If you want to follow me, I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram. Or you can follow Tim at tford14 on Instagram. Jump onto iTunes, give the show a review. You can do it in the podcast app. Makes it super easy and really helps us out. If you like what we're doing, tell a friend. Help us grow the podcast. If you've got any suggestions, guests, comments, or criticisms, send an email to podcast@mxendurance.com.
I'll tell you what, James Bell, I thought of something. What you should probably do to grow your Instagram following. I know it's very shallow, but it's very high quality. I reckon we need some cowboy hat content before you leave America. I want to see some of that. No, not on the video, on your Instagram account, mate. What are you? Oh, okay. There we go. There goes the allure of getting. I was trying to lure people over to your Instagram account to get the exclusive content over there, but I guess now people who want to see it have to head to YouTube. Again, I should say this, guys, again, thank you for everybody who's listening. Thank you for the people who are starting to jump over to the YouTube channel. We really appreciate it.
The numbers are going up, and when you say it gives us a buzz, it really does. It really does. It really lifts my spirits when I see comments and numbers going up on both on the audio medium and on the video. I love it. So
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, because literally, I think it's not even 10% of our listeners are checking it out on YouTube yet. So please, just go and check it out. If you just want to see what the sexiest voice in triathlon actually looks like, there's your answer. So just search MX Endurance on YouTube. It helps us out in ways that I don't understand or cannot explain. James Bale, a pleasure as always. We are working to get some guests on in a few weeks. Hopefully, we'll not have any more cancellations. But a few cancellations the last few weeks. Actually, it's been a bit frustrating.
Yeah,
but we're going to work. We've got an idea for a good one in the next few weeks. So we're going to start making some calls, and then we're going to start getting ready for the end of the year thing. So that's pretty exciting. I can't believe it's nearly December, mate. But until next time, where are we going to find you next week? We're going to be back in the regular recording studio. We're going to be in a desert island somewhere, a prison cell. What can we expect?
I'm going to be in Devon next weekend, mate.
The usual. I hope to see an improvement to that background, mate. That's all I can say.
Cheerio,
Tasteful note. Talk to you next week.
Bye.